steps. So we have the 9x9 piece of cotton fabric, and then if you have cotton batting, that would be great. What I'm using here is a cotton piece of felt because I didn't have the batting. So the next step is to go diagonally across your square to sew the two pieces together. Then you're going to take it and fold it with the right side of the fabric inside and fold it in half like so. Make sure you're hitting the center of your stitching. Make sure everything's lined up pretty well. You can use pins for this. I don't use them. It's just an easy project. I don't think it needs it, but you know, do what you need to do. So then the next thing you're going to do is measure across the bottom edge here. You're going to measure 2 inches across on both sides. And then you're going to measure up the height here 1 inch. And then we're going to connect those two and stitch across that. Okay, so I'm just going to draw a line here to follow with my marker. You could be using a chalk, an erasable pen, whatever works for you. And here I am just measuring up the 1 inch mark right there. And then I'm going to draw my diagonal between the two. You want to do this on both pieces of fabric. And once I'm done with this, then I'm going to do it on the other side. So let me just stitch this real quick and then I'll show you what I mean. Make sure my corners are lined up. Alright, so just going to do a real quick stitch along that line. And then move over to the other one. Once again, making sure everything's lined up. Alright, so we have part of the bowl stitched now. You can see the curve starting to happen. So the next thing we need to do is fold it in half the other direction. So I'm going to line this up as best I can. Flatten it out. And then once again, mark it the same and sew. So up the short side 1 inch, and then across the bottom 2 inches, and then draw your connecting line. Same thing over here. Now my felt is a little bit shy, so I'm measuring from the cotton. Don't know if I was in camera for that, but you'll see it here as I measure up the side. And marking the diagonal. And then taking it back to the sewing machine one more time and sewing along those lines. So now we should have our bowl shape, and the next thing we want to do is we're just going to go in and trim off our threads, and then also trim in close to those corner stitches. Okay, I have a cat trying to climb up on me here, sorry. So I'm just going to cut in to get rid of some of that fabric. And I'm going to do that on all 4 areas and on both pieces of fabric. So there's my first one, and you can see that the bowl shape is starting to take shape. Okay, then I'll bring in my other one here that I've already sewn and trim off any threads and then cut those corners off because that's just wasted bulk in there that we don't need. Now the reason you want to use all cotton material is that if you're going to microwave this, you don't want it to melt. Also, if you're going to put something hot in it, you don't want the fabric to melt from the heat of that either. Alright, so there we have that one cut as well. And there we have our bowl shape. For the next step, I have my bowl shapes kind of pushed into place, and I'm going to put the right sides of the fabric together. And then I'm going to take my seams and clip them or pin them, whichever you prefer. I have clips here in front of me, so I'm going to first go in here and clip these together. Now, don't worry so much about how things are lining up here in the center. Worry more about the edges for right now, because we're going to sew around this and then turn it inside out. Then we can work on pressing everything into place. So, let me grab another clip here. Alright, now after I've got those 4 pieces clipped together, I'm just going to go around and make sure the rest is clipped. If you would like, you could round these points instead. I'm going to leave them as points on this one and see how I like it. And then the last thing you want to do is just mark an area that you're going to leave open for turning it inside out. And I'd recommend staying away from the center stitching and stay away from the points. So something right along in here would be a good place to leave it open. All right. Now, as you go around here and line things up, if things are feeling a little bit off, you can make your adjustments. Okay, so I think that will do it for us. And then I'm just going to start here and sew all the way around. So let me take you up just a little bit and out of the way. Okay, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. And I'm going to sew just about a 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to use my foot here as the guide as to how far over I'm going to stitch. You could definitely mark yours if you wanted. And here, I just want to go a little bit slower than I normally do. Okay, I can speed things up just a little bit. Anytime you need help with alignment, you can just stop, line things up, move things around. Then when you get to your corner, you want to leave your needle down and pivot. Go ahead and stop whenever you need to adjust what you're doing. Alright, and so this is my last side, so I'm going to stitch as far over and across my seam and then stop. Alright, so now I have it stitched all the way around. If you want, you can cut off any excess that looks like you've got too much. I think I'm just going to snip a little bit away from here because I've got a little bit of excess here. Alright, and I think we'll leave that one there. Okay, so just last check any threads that need to be taken away. And then we have our opening here, and we're just going to take some time and work this through the opening. Alright, now, while you still have that open, you want to reach in there. Let me move the sewing machine a little out of the way here. Alright, you want to reach in and work on those corners. And then double check and make sure there isn't anywhere that you've missed a seam, because now's the time to easily go back and fix that if you need to. Alright. Now, if you want, before you move on, you could iron this down. This is our opening here that we need to stitch up. Now, if you want to do it by hand, you can do it by hand, or if you want to do an overstitch, you can just push this in, use your clips to hold it in place, and sew it on the sewing machine, which is what I'm going to do here. And then your bowl is done. So I'm going to just take care of this, stitch around the outside edges here, and then I'll be back to show you the finished piece. Alright, Alright, so here our cozy is finished, and I just need to trim off some of these extra threads. And you can see the stitching around the edge here, which is kind of decorative and also kind of holds everything in place. It is reversible. You can turn it inside out like so. So either way you would like it to be. And there is your bowl cozy. And I don't have a bowl exactly the right size to place in here, but I can go upstairs and grab one and show you. So there you go. If you are able to, instead of stopping and pivoting at the corner, if you can stitch and kind of just curve around, you can do that, or you can stop and turn. And you can see that on mine, there really isn't a whole lot of difference between this. I don't know if you can see it because it's so dark, but yeah, those work really well either way. So there's my finished bowl cozy using Cricut cotton fabric, and then the lining of course is cotton felt.